Erev Tov. So we're in Mamar HaYikarim, and we're up to next to the last essay. 10 essays we said, we did already 8, and now the 7. What's this? 8, and now this number 9 and 10. So the whole time we've been mentioning that it seems to be something corresponding to the Rambam's 13 principles of Amunah, the Yid Gimel Ikarim, and he seemed to organize it a little different. But I'm not sure if this one we have today is included in those of the Rambam. It has to do with miracles. Binyan HaNisim, page 186. So I didn't recall anything in the list of the Rambam that has to do with miracles and the 13 principles. We do have Hashgacha, that Hashem supervises the world, but that's not necessarily through miracles. Even the regular natural way of things, Hashem supervises the world. So I don't know. I don't know if this is something corresponding to what the Rambam calls Ikar. Just we never mentioned, I think, that there's a whole sefer called Sefer HaYikarim that talks about the Rambam's 13 principles, and he discusses what's considered Ikar. Ikar means something that's basis, root. And he discusses who made up the 13 principles, who says there's such thing called a principle. He's going on the Rambam. The Rambam says 13 principles. He wants to know what's called the Ikar, and how many are there, and what's the criteria to be considered Ikar. And a fat book. He has some disagreements with the Rambam. So the Ramchal, I think, in general, Derech Hashem would be what he calls the Sefer HaYikarim. The whole book is at length, and here it's small essays called Mamar HaYikarim. But this one in particular, I don't know if it would be considered a fundamental principle. I don't know. Just presenting the question. So he's going to explain what miracles are all about. In the Torah, you have some miracles that are recorded. Famous ones, Kriyas Yamsuf, Mon, and then the Mateh, Moshe. Many miracles happen during the Midbar, and you have in the Nevi'im many stories of miracles by different Nevi'im, especially by Elisha. Elisha is one of the outstanding personalities who performed miracles. So he's going to explain what's the purpose, what is the issue about miracles. So he starts, all of the creations only came to be because so decreed Hashem's will. I mean, nothing exists only because Hashem desires it to exist. So anything is only God and creation. There's nothing else. Anything that's anything that exists besides God is created. There's nothing that exists besides God. And that God created everything that's not Him. So everything that exists is only because it so decreed God. Also all of the laws and limitations, all the laws of nature, there are no natural laws that are of their own. Any natural law of physics that we could observe in nature is only because Hashem so decreed it. Even though the physics will be able to tell you what they are, but they're coming into being, their being so, is only because God created it so. There's a law of gravity because God created a law of gravity, or else it wouldn't be. Any law of nature is only because Hashem initiated, created them, and sustains those laws. The same way that Hashem is the one who initiated those laws with His will, so too He could nullify them and change them at will at any time that He desires. So all the laws of nature are only because He created them, and if He wants to change them, He can change them. So the laws of nature are not givens. It's only created issues, and they're subject to change.
The subject to change is called a miracle. So
when it's changed, it's called a miracle. When things don't go according to the natural way, natural order of things, so that's called a miracle. Miracle means things that are not in the laws of nature. The truth is there are two kinds of miracles. He's referring to one of them. When you have a series of events that logic and statistics say that it can't be a coincidence, so many things happen in that order, like the story of Purim. It's called the miracle of Purim. The Gemara calls it a miracle. Nes Purim. It's Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara a few times talks about the story of Purim and calls it a nes, a miracle. There's nothing against the laws of nature over there. Every episode in itself was very natural. If you would be reading how they say the Shushan Times, then every day alone, you wouldn't see any miracle. Just if you put all of those different articles together, it wouldn't also weren't in one retzef. They weren't consecutive. It was over a span of many years, and you have to take out the issues from different years and put them together. And then you see, wow, how did this happen? It's only because of the coincidence that we see. It can't be a coincidence. That's a kind of a miracle. That's true. That it can't be when you see so many things that happen, and it's too much according to statistics to be coincidental. We see that it was heavenly organized or orchestrated. But that's not the miracle.
You just went to 67 war. The things that happened in the morning. It was one thing after another. It was like.
Might have even been things over there that were even against the laws of nature also.
Yeah, it was like things that were just not normal.
So that kind of miracle is not going to be the discussion over here. The fact that Hashem orchestrates events to happen in a way that even sometimes it's noticeable that this was not natural, it wasn't wise on its own, but that orchestrating of events is not the subject here. The subject is going to be a miracle that everyone would call a miracle. It means the actual event was against the laws of nature. Like again, let's say it's something that goes against the laws of gravity. Something that's physically in our world not possible. So that's the subject. When and why Hashem makes miracles. So he starts off saying that everything that's created is only because God so willed it. And not only the actual object, but also the laws of nature are also only because God so willed it. And if he wants to change it, he could change it. Those issues that Hashem initiates in the world, not according to the natural ways of things are called miracle. That's the Agdara, that's the definition of a miracle. Things that don't happen according to the normal way that God initiated to happen in this world. You have the laws of nature, the same way we call it laws of nature, natural laws, that will be called Chukei HaTeva. And then you have those that are not according to the laws of nature, and that's called a miracle. So usually Hashem goes according to a certain order. He made the order, that means that he decided that that's the proper way for the world to run. On the majority, usually, Hashem, Ha'adam Baruch Hu, the Master blessed be he wants to sustain nature in its regular laws, because that's the way he made it. He made it that these are the laws that are proper and appropriate for the world to be run. Would be better. Since he selected these laws to be the natural way of things, the normal way of things we'd call it, that's because he knew that that's the best way that the world should be run. But however, even though that's so, that as a rule, Hashem wants these to be the rules of how things work, but that doesn't mean that he won't change it if he has a reason why he wants to, for those reasons that he has. So in our human perspective, sometimes we say the term like, this thing needs a miracle. If someone's in a certain situation that according to the laws of nature he doesn't see how this could work out, so he says like, for this we need a miracle. And that's how people would think that's what a miracle is. That Hashem is the regular way, but sometimes he needs a miracle. So then he would change the laws of nature in order to get the desired result. So that's what he's going to say is not the pshat. Hashem doesn't have to do a miracle in order to get to a desired result. Hashem can get to the desired result within the laws of nature. Hashem could orchestrate the laws of nature to any result that he wants. He doesn't have to break the laws of nature. He can manipulate the laws of nature and orchestrate them in a way that he'll get the desired result without any exception to the rule. So that's not the reason. That's what the whole paragraph, that's what the whole essay is going to say. But the reason for miracles is not because the only way to get to the result would only be a miracle.
The inyan of a miracle is only for us, for the people, that we should see something which is not normal. For the work, it's all the same. So
right. So that would be, in short, that's what he's saying. That's one of the reasons he's going to say. You're saying one of the reasons is because we should see it. He's going to give that as one possibility.
That's what everybody does. It's fine.
But
that way.
So you're saying that the purpose was that we should see the miracle. The purpose wasn't to get the result. So you're going the same way. You're saying the same idea. But the purpose of the miracle is not because this was the only means to get to the end. The end could have been achieved in natural ways. The purpose is dafka.
You should know that that's not natural.
So you're saying, but you're saying more. You're not just saying that the purpose is the miracle itself. You're also saying a reason for the miracle, which is one of the reasons he's going to say, that we should see it. that we should see the miracle. We should see something being done out of the ordinary. But the first thing and he's going to go on that, and he's going to say more reasons also. So the first point that's being made is that just say the Chazar over again, just to review it again, is that the purpose of miracles is not for the end result. To achieve the end result, Hashem could have done it within the laws of nature. The purpose of the miracles is going to be for the miracle itself, not as at the result that's going to bring, but the means itself of doing a miracle. That was the purpose. If in our world there's such a people, let's say 6-day war, or somebody is sick in a way that we don't see according to the laws of nature how he could get better or how a small nation could win a war, and then a miracle happens. Hashem could have caused the same result without doing a miracle. Hashem could have caused the same result through the laws of nature, and the doctors wouldn't have been overwhelmed with a miracle. They wouldn't have called it a medical miracle. They could have called it also nature, the rules of nature. But Hashem wants the miracle for the sake of the miracle. One possibility why Hashem might make the miracle is in order to make known that Hashem is supervising. That alone. The fact that Hashem is supervising, or that He's able, His ability, people didn't realize that Hashem is taking care. Now Hashem does a miracle, so you see that He intervened. So people notice His intervention. They wouldn't see His intervention if it would have gone through the natural means. Once they see a miracle, they stand back and they say, oh, God is doing it. Or His ability, that they wouldn't realize that Hashem is able to. I'm not so sure what the Chiddush is able to. He who made creation can do anything. But maybe people don't realize that they're a bit a slumber. But once they see something out of the ordinary, so then that's what impresses them more. So the purpose is not the result again, the purpose is the actual miracle, that it shows Hashem's supervision and it shows Hashem's ability. That's one possibility. That's one Another possibility is because this is a bit abstract, but let's get the words. It's possible that this particular situation required that it should be done in that way. He's not saying why. He's just offering another possibility. We don't have to know it even. We don't have to know why. If we know the mechanics of what happened, we know that it has to be done dafka in that method. Not because to show Hashem's ability and supervision. The reason why that had to be done in that way, even if we don't understand that He just wants to make the point that it's not because of the result, it's not because in order to achieve the result you need it that way, but that had to be done in that way. If we understand it or not.
Well, can't we say that every act has to be done in that way?
Yes, and most of the time the act can be done in that way in the natural means, and sometimes the act has to be done in that way in an unnatural way, and we don't understand why the natural way was necessary, we don't understand why the unnatural way is necessary, but again, not because it was not possible to get the result other ways. Could have gotten the same result naturally, but that had to be done that way. And that issue, sometimes efshar shetia museges v'niglas kupshat ha'maisa v'inyan ha'maforsam ve'efshar sheyiya lefi hanistar shebadovo v'sisri hashgacha shebo. I don't know exactly what he means over there in these two lines. I think that he's saying that sometimes the issue is the superficial act that was accomplished. That is the point that had to become known. Sometimes there's something behind the scenes, even something people might have realized happened over there. It had to be done in the way that it was done. Could be other reasons that we have no idea. The reasons that the miracle happens is all kinds of reasons. Some we could guess, some we could imagine, some we can't even imagine. It This might be another reason, and the way that he's organized, presenting this whole issue, I don't know if he's saying another reason, or maybe he's just saying why sometimes it's done through a person. He's talking about now, from V'hinei, how come Hashem sometimes does a miracle through a person. Sometimes Hashem does the miracle straight. He doesn't have a so-called an intermediary. It's not done through somebody. Hashem made the miracle. Sometimes it's done through a Navi that announces the miracle. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's the one who's lifted up the staff. So, well, sometimes he says it's done through one of his close servants to show how much Hashem loves them. The fact that he gave them over such a kind of a power to be above the laws of creation. According to the level of closeness that they are, means the higher, the bigger Navi or Tzaddik that they are, so the more Hashem will do a bigger miracle. So I don't know, according to the wording, it seems to me he's not coming to say more reasons why there are miracles. That means they wouldn't say this as a reason on its own, that it's a miracle just for the purpose of showing that this person is beloved by Hashem. But after there's a reason why a miracle has to be done, so sometimes Hashem will do it through a person, that he's going to announce it, or it's going to be done through him, in order to show that he's so beloved, that he's on top of nature. He doesn't seem to say that alone would be a reason to do the miracle, just to show that he's a special person. But if there's a reason why a miracle has to be done, so sometimes it'll be done through a person. Included in this whole subject of miracles, he's going to say now the subject about Shemos. The names of Hashem, we have an elaboration about this in Derech Hashem, we'll get to it again, B'ez Hashem, that Hashem is called by different names. This is not something that's only in Kabbalah, this is a big issue of Kabbalah, but even not in Kabbalah, even in Chumash, as someone learns Chumash alone, Parsha Shmos, he sees there's a big issue of names. Over there, Moshe Rabbeinu says that to Hashem, I'm going to come to Am Yisrael, they're going to say, Ma Shemo, Mo Amar Aleihim. They're going to ask me, what's his name? Well, that means they know about God. It wasn't like Am Yisrael never heard of God, who's God. When the children, when they learned the Chumash, maybe that's how it's explained to them, but it's not correct. Of course they knew about Hashem. They knew about, since beginning, and also Avrohom Yitzchak Yaakov, it wasn't that they didn't know God, they surely didn't know God. But when they ask Ma Shemo, it means what is the attribute with which he's going to come towards us now. Each name of Hashem is saying some kind of defining some kind of attribute of how Hashem is going to relate. Hashem is only one, but he has different ways of relating, and each name portrays a different relationship. So when they ask Ma Shemo, means with which attribute is Hashem coming, and over there Hashem told them to say Eka Asher Eke, and Eka Shlachani Aleichem, and then Yud Kei Vav Kei, different names of Hashem, and you have to know. You see obviously that those who asked what's his name, and Moshe Rabbeinu Hashem told Moshe what to say, so they obviously knew what the answer was. So they knew what does Yud Kei Vav Kei mean, and what does Aleph Kei Yud Kei mean. But there's such an issue called names. And that's open in the Torah many times. Then we see many names. It's Shaka, it's Vokos, Elokim, Adni, different names of Hashem. Those names of Hashem, there are two purposes that it talks about in Derech Hashem. One is that when you call to Hashem, you should call an attribute that you want to approach. Maybe the word is activate, but when you're approaching Hashem, so you're asking for a certain attribute. So someone's coming for mercy, and he's gonna approach Hashem in the name of the mighty King. That's not the point. The point is not mightiness right now. If you're asking to take care of your enemies, so you approach that Hashem is the mighty King. But you're asking for parnasa, it doesn't have to do with the might. If someone's asking for help in different things, he has to each time get the issue that he's asking for, and then approach Hashem in that midah. There's another issue of names, and that is that angels that are appointed on different subjects. We have this point about malachim. There's such a thing as angels that Hashem made that are appointed on different jobs, so to speak, tafkidim, and the name of Hashem, of which their issue is related to. If someone knows that name, knows the name of Hashem, of under which category that malach is appointed on, he could force the malach to do according to his wishes. That's the strength, that's the power that Hashem gave man, that if he knows Hashem's name, and he could sort of order the angels. It's very short, it's only one paragraph, about 5 lines over here, and there Hashem was much more elaborate, we'll get to it. And a person is not, even if he would know the names, he's not always allowed to utilize it. It will be a chutzpah that he would use Hashem's name for his own interests. So a person has to know how to use it, when to use it, for what purpose to use it. That's what they call Kabbalah Masit. Kabbalah Masit is actual Kabbalah, using it in practice, and that's not, even though if a person uses it, doesn't mean that he's a great tzaddik. He could be a big rasha for using it. But there is such a phenomenon in the world that a person would have power through Hashem's names. So he says, included in this issue of miracles is, Hashem wanted to be called in different names. It means according to each different hashpah. According to different hashpahs that he's going to be influencing relationships, he wants to be called by that name. According to the way that Hashem is influencing and guiding, he wants to be called according to that appropriate name. ואומנם מצב אחר כך שבקור שמות סבא קדושים, והיא זכרם, ישחטשו גם כן לפלוש רבוס בעולם. Hashem ingrained it, initiated it, that through those holy names, when they're mentioned, that could initiate miracles in the world. The person uses Hashem's name, that could, if he knows how to use it in the right way, under certain conditions, and also if Hashem agrees to it, so then he can make differences in the laws of nature. So the point of miracles before was saying that Hashem does miracles. The point till now was talking about Hashem does the miracle, and sometimes he does it through a person. Here he's saying that sometimes a person has the power even to initiate a miracle. We see that this whole issue about Hashem's names and how to use them is organized in a wondrous wisdom. There's some segula b'chol shem b'shem k'moshe nigaz b'chachmos. Hashem put a certain property in each name according to Hashem's supreme wisdom. In a way that a person could draw by mentioning those names, those different influences that will cause those miracles. So he seems to divide it into two. The main issue was talking about when Hashem does miracles and why Hashem does miracles. Just to sum up the whole parak, it's pretty short parak. The issue was all about things that are not according to the natural order of how the world works. Nature means how Hashem made things in the natural laws. Again, just to back up a little bit more, everything that is this is that Hashem created it. Not only the objects, even the laws of its nature, the way that things work, also is only because of Hashem's decree. If He wishes, He could change it. Usually, He does it according to the natural order because that's the way that He saw it appropriate, and that's usually the way things work. But if there's a reason, Hashem will change it and do things not according to the regular order of things. The reason to change it is not going to be in order to get the result. Hashem can get to the desired result even through the laws of nature also. He can manipulate and orchestrate the laws of nature to get any result that He wants. The purpose of miracles is for the miracle itself. Either for reasons that we understand. Sometimes we could say that Hashem should show His hashgacha. People should realize, wake up, that Hashem is the one who is organizing things here, or to show Hashem's ability, or because that act, if you understand it, you know why it has to be done in that way, if we understand it or not. And He says some things we won't understand. Sometimes all these miracles are done through people. Hashem wants to show that He loves this person, He's close to him, and therefore He gives him the cover, and the people should realize that He's above nature. All that was talking about miracles that Hashem does. So to speak, Hashem initiated it. But then He also says it's such a thing that Hashem gives the power that a person could initiate something against the laws of nature, and He tells us the subject of Hashem's names. They're in the Torah. Some of them are openly in the Torah. Some are going to be different combinations of letters that are not regular names that we're familiar with. And if a person would know them, he would be able to, under certain circumstances and conditions, to be able to change the rules of nature. It doesn't mean if a person knows how to do it, it's always going to work, or that he's a tzaddik for doing it. Sometimes he'll be held responsible that he shouldn't have done it. But it's possible to use the names of Hashem in a way to be on top of the laws of nature. He just said in the parentheses that Derech Hashem, he says there's another issue of the names, that when you speak to Hashem, you should know how to speak to Him. You should address Him in the right title when you're coming to ask Him for something. But here he's saying a different point, that they have power. The names themselves have power, and when a person uses those names, he could change the laws of nature, and that seems to be a miracle that's initiated by man. And that's the issue of miracles. And that's the whole essay about miracles. If anybody has any questions, I'll try. If not, we can go on to the next subject.
Is there, you explained it very well, is there any advantage to our trying to understand why certain events take place? Is that
in a miraculous way?
Yeah.
If something happens in a miraculous way, would there be a benefit for us to try to figure out why it happened in that way?
Or even events which necessarily are not miraculous, but you see there's definitely, it's out of the ordinary. You wouldn't call it necessarily a miracle, but it definitely is something that
God orchestrated.
Yeah, something that you can see there's an orchestration going on.
Right.
But is it to our advantage to try to seek out the reasons for that, even in our national behavior or in our personal behavior? Is this something?
I would be hesitant. It means to figure out why something happened and then build on that. It could be a speculation. At one point he says, we had mentioned earlier that even though he doesn't talk about the miracle of Hashem manipulating nature, that's also considered a miracle, not against the laws of nature. It's nothing unnatural. But when you see events that happen, a sequence of events that happen that couldn't have been coincidental, we see also that Hashem is supervising, even though it's not out of the laws of nature. We agree. And now, can a person figure out why that happened? Sometimes you'll see it. Sometimes it's going to be obvious, maybe if you see it. But I wouldn't be so bold to build that is the reason, and therefore to build on that. We could speculate, but I don't think it's proper. Let's say if one person wants to know how to go further, so we'll say, let's say, okay, there are some things that are obvious.
I maybe didn't phrase the question. What I'm more thinking about is, should we see the Yad Hashem in the event, in the national affairs or personal?
So definitely. If the person is able to see that Hashem is intervening and involved, and he sees it, so then surely that's something to be taken note. He shouldn't be ignoring it. 6-Day War, everybody has to see the hand of Hashem. The whole world saw the hand of Hashem. They just wanted to forget about it. And some people wanted to attribute it to their own strength. But if anybody would be looking at it objectively, they would see the hand of Hashem. Sure.
But that's any war.
So you wouldn't always see it. That's the point. You wouldn't always see it.
No, this was not a
You wouldn't ever see it. This is a war that they say that other countries, when they have schools of war in the West Point, so they learn from past wars of different countries in the world how to know for the future war tactics. But they don't include the 6-Day War. The 6-Day War.
It's not known.
And there was a student asked the professor, after he went through different wars, studying, analyzing the mistakes, the good, how come you're not talking about the 6-Day War? He said, because there's nothing to learn from there. It's just maybe they should learn that. They should learn that God is intervening. That's what not to learn war tactics, to learn God's tactics. So definitely, if a person can see the hand of Hashem, so he definitely should point it out. The truth is that the hand of Hashem is always acting. We don't always see it. If a person merits to be able to see the hand of Hashem either in things out of the ordinary, out of the laws of nature, or just in the sequence of events that he sees that something was orchestrated over here, definitely should learn from it. Point to that, not learn from it what to do, let's say, but learn that Hashem is there.
You know what's crazy, because the laws of nature are miraculous. Every law of nature.
But we have to just define our terms. What does nature mean? What is miracle?
Every piece of nature is miraculous.
The word would be amazing. But the word, they have to get into the definition. The word miracle means something which is not natural.
We don't really know what a miracle means.
So we started before you came. So a miracle means things that are not the natural way of happening.
Oh, you're going to say there's a natural way, that's not miraculous.
And what is natural?
That's natural.
Right. What does natural mean? He starts off, of course Hashem made nature. That's what people make a mistake, I guess, now that came a bit clearer. People make a mistake and think that nature, that's like a given. And then Hashem wants to change something, so he does it, he intervenes. So the Ramchal explained, no, that's not true. The nature is also godly created, initiated. Without God having created it, it wouldn't be. There wouldn't be a law of gravity without God making it. So the nature means the regular set of rules. I think that's very nice. I didn't realize why the Ramchal was so elaborate in the beginning. He's coming to point this out, that the laws of nature are not givens. The laws of nature are God's regular way of doing things. And a miracle, by definition, means that it's out of the ordinary way of doing things. But to say that the laws of nature are amazing creations, that it couldn't have been by itself, surely. That's no question. Very, very good point. That the laws of nature are also what we would call, he used the word miraculous because that's the whole point over here, but it means that it's something that surely was created by God. It was planned, master plan and design, nothing that could have happened by accident. Not only the objects, also the laws couldn't have happened by accident. So that's godly. Now the point is that there's one plan that Hashem uses as a regular, as a usual, and that is out of the ordinary. And that's the point of miracles, and he's talking about how come Hashem sometimes does that.
Are there reasons today why we shouldn't use Hashem?
The Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, he says earlier in the book that it's considered a misuse of the name of Hashem to use it for his own personal use. You can't go to the palace and grab the king's crown and use it for something personal. So if he's using it for something of the honor of Hashem or the honor of Am Yisrael, something like that, that would be the place where it would be in a place. What?
Hashem made that you could use these names.
Only to use it under the right circumstances.
Because there is a circumstance where
it would be proper. It would be proper, right?
Meaning it's not appropriate just to rely on Hashem. You have to also use the names.
Right, the same way that it means we don't. Hashem made a way that you're supposed to do things. Same way you're supposed to daven. You don't say Hashem will do everything.
I know about where we're davening, we're relying on Hashem.
So there's also a surely relying on Hashem. The person usually, when a person is going to be doing this, it's surely going to help him if he's a person who's close to Hashem and a big tzaddik. The person who's not a tzaddik, even though got a hold of a book that's going to say the names, it's probably not going to work. It has to be that he's a person who is on a high level. Even that, you can make a mistake and misuse it sometimes. But it's surely only working with Hashem. It's not something that's going to be separate on its own. It's a minutak and he just knows the names and he does it. It surely has to do with a relationship to Hashem. It also can be misused, and that's what the Ramchal says. It has to be used only for Kiddush Hashem, something for Am Yisrael, something to make the name of Hashem known, and a good way to save Am Yisrael, not for his own personal interests.